Welcome to our latest update on the ongoing war in Ukraine from the War Insider. The 346th day of the Russian widespread invasion of Ukraine has begun. Main news for the morning of February 4th. Why counter-offensive on the Lyman direction has been suspended. Big losses of Ukrainians in Bakhmut, officially GLSDB for Ukraine, and explosions in Belgorod, Russia. But the battle map and major changes and updates must come first. The border with Belarus remains unchanged. Joint exercises between Belarusians and Russians are continuing on Belarusian territory. The danger of an attack from the north remains, but the probability is very low today. The joint exercises are mainly conducted to distract and keep some Ukrainian troops in the north of Ukraine. The War Institute also holds the same opinion. Putin may create conditions for further Russian raids across the border into northeastern regions of Ukraine to distract the Ukrainian armed forces and pin them to the northern border regions, says the report. On the Svatovo direction, the enemy is launching an attack from Crimea, and as a result, the defense forces are forced to retreat. The enemy's tanks have also arrived on the direction, causing defeat to our positions in the northeastern Crimea. Unfortunately, the situation has also complicated here. The Bakhmut section fighting continues on the approaches to Pereskaveivka and Kornhora. The Russians are pressuring the meat-packing plant in the south of Bakhmut. The outcome is unknown. The enemy's reserves have been pulled in for further advancement on our positions in Ivanovsky, and fighting continues. The Russians aim to block the road from Konstantinovka. The Avdiivka Segment 2 enemy tank attacks on Nevelskoye failed. The towns of Tonenkoy, Vodayan, Novomikhailivka, Georgievka and Mariinka have come under enemy fire. The Zaporozhye High segment unchanged on the map. In the area of Ugledar in the Donetsk region, Ukrainian military destroyed Russian equipment and captured 2 Russian military servicemen. According to the press service of the Ukrainian Special Operations Forces, the occupiers were to have been advanced by a tank unit. But the forces of the Ukrainian Special Operations Forces in conjunction with soldiers of the 72nd Separate Mechanized Brigade destroyed a modernized Russian tank T-80 before it reached a firing position. During the battle, 2 members of the tank crew, contract soldiers, and Russian Marines were taken captive. In the video, they admit to being victims of Russian propaganda and agreed to go to war in Ukraine. The Tauride segment remains unchanged. During the day, Russian occupiers launched a missile strike on the civilian infrastructure of the city of Barvankovo in the Kharkiv region. There are casualties among the civilian population. In addition, the enemy carried out more than 20 shellings from reactive systems and salvos. In Belovodsk in the Luhansk region, the occupiers set up the Central District Hospital as a military hospital and brought 120 wounded soldiers of the Russian Federation there. To replenish its losses in manpower, the enemy continues its recruitment campaign among prisoners. Over the past week, up to 1,000 mercenaries have been recruited in correction facilities in the Novosibirsk region of the Russian Federation. Defense forces have carried out Tate strikes on areas where the occupiers are concentrated in the past day. 4 enemy drones of the type Orlan-10 have been destroyed. Ukrainian rocket launchers and artillery have hit a control point, 2 areas of enemy personnel concentration, and 1 heavy fire system Soln-Sepik. The Ukrainian counter-offensive on the Lyman direction has been suspended due to the current unfavorable weather conditions and lack of resources, said the spokesperson for the Eastern Group of Troops in the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Sergei Cherevity, in a telemarathon. A number of factors are affecting. First of all, we are not Russians. We do not abandon our divisions when there are no reserves and sufficient fire support. Therefore, we act in accordance with modern military science. When we had these opportunities, we moved forward weather conditions, reserves, he said. According to him, the absence of progress does not mean that the fighting has stopped. On the Lyman direction, Ukrainian fighters continue to destroy the logistics and storage facilities of the occupiers. We often talk about the big losses of Russians in Bakhmut. However, Ukraine is also paying a very high price for holding Bakhmut, but cannot drop it. The advisor to the head of the President's Office of Ukraine, Mikhail Podolyak, in a 20 minutes interview answered the question of whether it is advisable to hold Bakhmut, in which only 10% of the population remains. The issue is not 10% of the population, but our territory, our homes. Of course, we are also afraid, and we pay a very high price for the protection of Bakhmut, but we cannot leave this behind. It shows what we are, and this must be clear in Europe. Our young people are giving their lives for the right to live in our homes. Bakhmut is not just a place, it's our home, said Podolyak. At the same time, he did not mention the losses in Bakhmut. I cannot answer you on human losses now. We will be able to name this figure when the war is over, he said. Russia is trying to shed its image as a pariah state before the anniversary of its invasion in Ukraine, says the Washington Post. The publication reports that in response to this, Russia has launched a wide-ranging diplomatic campaign. Lavrov is holding meetings in Egypt and Pakistan, and Putin is calling on the heir prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, to coordinate the goals of a meeting of oil producers at OPEC+. These meetings and negotiations are necessary to show that Western sanctions imposed due to the war in Ukraine don't work and to convince the Russian people that Putin is an unparalleled leader. In the Belgorod region of Russia, there were explosions and a subsequent fire at a plant that manufactured metal structures for the Crimean Bridge. The impact hit a nearby oil depot. Local publics write that the fire from the oil depot seriously damaged the production of the nearby Borisovsky Bridge metal structures plant. Witnesses report that the flame reaches a height of about 50 meters at the oil depot and the plant. The fire is visible from many kilometers away, and the firefighting services of the Ministry of Emergency Situations have already been involved in extinguishing the fire. Local authorities are silent. There is no information on the victims. It was at this plant that the metal structures for the Crimean Bridge on the occupied peninsula were produced. In May 2015, the plant even opened a new workshop No. 8 specifically for deliveries to Putin's Pride through the Kerch Strait. The new aid package from the US will include GLSDB missiles with a range of up to 150 km, the Pentagon stated. They have the largest range of all the weapons that the partners have previously transferred to Ukraine. It's a joint development by Boeing and Saab Group, consisting of two main components, an air bomb and a rocket engine. It can be launched from M270 and M142 HIMARS ground complexes, which are in the armament of the Ukrainian armed forces. The developers note the missile's maneuverability, which can bypass obstacles on the terrain, and its extremely high accuracy. They claim it can hit a target the size of a car tire. The Russian Federation's Ministry of Defense's building in Moscow has a Pantsir C-1 air defense system covered with green camouflage netting on its roof. Can you see it now? We can barely see it. This is all the news for today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. We'll be back with more updates and information tomorrow. Thanks for watching.